But I had asked Congressman Katko to come, and I had received several requests from some union members to have him come and speak to us as well. So I've gotten to know him over a little bit of time, and some issues with medicine, and I found him to be a straight talker, and I just wanted you to have an opportunity to listen to him and then ask him a lot of questions. Hopefully you guys have all brought questions. So without any further talk, I'm going to turn it over to Congressman Katko to take it through.
If you can't hear me, please let me know, but no one's ever accused me of being too quiet or soft-spoken, so I suspect you hear me just fine. You guys came in on a nice sunny day, and I appreciate that. My wife and I were up at Alexandria Bay for a few days to get away for the first time in a year and a half. I came back today just so I can make this meeting, so I'm coming back tomorrow morning. So I do view this as an important meeting, because sometimes it's important to size up somebody to their face and just hear what they have to say. And regardless of which party affiliation they are, I think hearing from them and getting their ideas and what they stand for is really important. And if you get know what the takeaway from what I say today, I want you to understand one thing, that I'm an independent thinker. Okay, I belong to a party, yes, but I do what I think is right for Central New York and what I think is right for my constituents. There can be no greater example of that in my mind than my vote on TPA. Tremendous pressure in Congress to vote for the TPA from my party. Tremendous. And from the beginning, I knew you guys that saw me and spoke to me in my office. I said in the beginning, hell no, I'm not voting for it. I'm just not. I don't believe it's good for labor. I don't believe it's good for jobs. I don't believe it's good for Central New York. And I thought back to when I was in high school and NAFTA and all the promises of NAFTA and how good that was going to be for our economy. And then after NAFTA came in, I saw nothing but trucks leaving here and not coming back, and jobs leaving here. And you know, when I got into this job, I left a very perfectly cushy, not cushy, but perfectly secure job, not cushy, secure. It wasn't cushy. How knows that? A lot of people, there's a lot of people that know a job went after bad guys, but I left the job that's very secure because I want my kids not only to grow up here, but I want my kids' kids to grow up here. And unless we create more economic opportunities for people, that's not going to happen. So I can't go to Congress and vote for things that I think are going to be job killers for this area. And that's what I'm concerned about. One of the other things I was very, very concerned about was this mentality that manufacturing jobs are gone and they ain't coming back. And I just don't subscribe to that at all. We've got a great, highly trained and highly educated workforce. We have great universities in this area. And we have unbelievable natural resources here. And we have a hub, and we got infrastructure here from the interstates in all directions. And I look at what's going on in the Southwest right now, where the water situations are so horrible, and they're rationing water, and manufacturing rates are going through the roof. And I think we're primed to get some of those jobs, and get them up here, and put people back to work. And that's what I want. Those are some of the things that drew me into the manufacturing. My father, I looked at the GM and reminded me of that, because he went to manufacturing plants all over New York State, primarily because he was an industrial engineer. He would help design things to help factories work better. And he told me all the time, and I saw all the time what the factories work here, and they can come back. We got to work hard. And the big thing I think we got to do is level the playing field of our foreign competitors. Okay, we can't have a tax rate for corporations in the United States that's double or triple what it is for our competitors. For example, Canada, their tax rate's half or less for their manufacturers than what is for our manufacturers here. And I have no interest in making manufacturers wealthy, but I have every interest in making individuals have a good standard of living and a good job here. And if you level the playing field, even remotely, I guarantee you that our labor force can kick the crap out of anybody's in the world. You don't have to worry about TPAs and all these trade agreements that give away the store. If we have even a remotely level playing field, they'll be coming to scream for us. And let's not forget one other thing, okay? We represent in the United States 2% of the world's population, 2%. We represent 25% of the world's economy. We are so blessed to live in this country, and we can't forget that. And we can't give away our status as leaders economically, leaders politically, leaders in freedom in this country to anyone. And so from an economic standpoint, I believe that. From an international standpoint, I believe that. That's why I believe your deal with Iran is terrible. It's horrible. And I can talk about that if people are interested. And that's why I believe the way I do on a lot of votes I've taken. And I'm a Republican. Okay, but I voted against TPA. I voted to support things about Davis-Bacon when some of my colleagues tried to slip things in. You know, I'm voting for you on the things that I think are important for my constituents in central New York, and that's why the Teamsters, I'm getting along with them both locally and nationally, and the other unions, Greg Lansell, those guys we're working with, and I'm gonna continue to do that, okay? And, you know, I'm gonna listen to you folks, and that's why I'm here, and I'll come here as many times as you want to listen to you, okay? So, I can go on and on, but quite frankly, I prefer you to fire away at me. I'm not putting you on the firing line. You can judge me by my answers right off the cuff. So if anybody has any questions, fire away. Yes, sir.
I'm not sure of how to phrase this, Congressman, but I know we met with you and you voted against the TPP.
TPA.
Well, whatever you want to call it.
TPP, nobody knows what's in it because it's secret.
All right, right, it's secret.
Yeah.
The thought, the voting against the track to fast track it.
Right.
It's my understanding, I read somewhere, and I thought, or maybe somebody told me that you voted against that, but then Congressman Boehner sort of skirted the rules a little bit and brought up something to re-vote for that agreement instead of ending the vote. And you voted to bring back that agreement. Is that correct? Am I correct?
I didn't vote. It may have been a technical vote that brought the vote to the floor. And, you know, no one ever votes against bringing a vote to the floor. But
No, I'm not talking about the initial vote. I'm talking about the second part of that where he was going to bring it back because it was defeated
I voted against it.
in
Again,
this,
yes.
for that
I
agreement.
voted against the TPA.
But did you vote against his attempt to bring back the voting for or against the agreement?
Well, they brought the vote back from the Senate.
Right.
I can't remember the convoluted process because it was hooked up with something else. But there's, from a procedural standpoint, I have no problem bringing a vote to the floor. But when the substance of the vote is what it is, that's what's important to me. So I can't remember if I did or not vote for the procedural thing to bring it up for a vote the second time, but
I think you voted to bring it up. And that's what concerns me because it should have ended there.
No, because, you know, the thing is, you gotta vote on the substance of it. The substance of it is, are you for it or against it? Clearly I'm against it, and my record's clear, and like 2 times in a row, voted against it. But originally, when it came up in the House, and second time it came back in the Senate, both times I said no. And I was one of a very few handful of Republicans voting against it. And I'm very proud to say that, because I stood up for what I believe.
35, 36, but you did vote to bring it back to.
From a procedural standpoint, it may have, but I, quite frankly, I don't even remember.
Okay.
Yeah, because I just know the substance of it as well as the so, yes.
Can you name me one corporation that pays full corporate taxes?
I know GE doesn't pay a damn thing.
It's either this ExxonMobil,
Right.
either this Dell, either this.
Right, and here's one thing, I have a problem with that. Here's when I say, you know, level the playing field for manufacturers, but I would only level the playing field for manufacturers so you can compete internationally if the bigger companies, right, got rid of the loopholes. We get rid of the loopholes that those companies benefit from, so everybody pays their fair share. That's what we should do in America, right? And I said this during the campaign, and I'll say this to you today. I think that we need a tax code where the most important person is the guy working his second shift at Chrysler, as opposed to some fancy pants jackass in a corporate boardroom who gets a tax account. Okay? Those are the guys, that's the problem with our tax code. It's too complicated, there's too many loopholes, there's too many openings. Simplify the tax code, get rid of the loopholes, and as an incentive to get rid of loopholes, lower the marginal tax rate. That way, everyone's paying their fair share. People don't have a perception. Pardon me?
How about the capital gains?
Well, that's investor-driven thing. That's a little different. We're talking about businesses first here. Businesses first.
Small businesses pay their portion of taxes, the corporations.
Right, and that's not right. I totally agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. And that's part of what they're doing. They're talking about overall tax reform Paul Ryan's working on, is trying to close those. And I tell you, I'm not going to vote for
I
it.
suggest very strongly, look very detailed at Mr.
Oh, I am.
Ryan's.
Trust me, believe me, because he was a main proponent of TPA. Okay, so I told him no way. Right off the bat, it's not those little freshman congressmen. I said no, and he had to deal with it. I said tough shit. That's it. And I never wavered from that. And he's not kidding. So, and I had a lot of pressure on me. Trust me. But the bottom line is, you're right. You can't have tax reform in the United States without closing the corporate loopholes. Period. Without it, it's not fair. Yes.
Not really a question, just an interjection, is that, but you know, and I agree with what you're saying. However, it isn't, we don't poor people don't write the tax code. That tax code was written by these corporate people for corporate people. I mean,
Exactly.
nobody in this room had any input into those loopholes. So how are you gonna fight that on that when it comes to trying to get rid of these tax loopholes that was created by them for them?
Well, the same
I
way,
mean-
the same way I did with TPA, and the same way I did with other votes in Congress that were popular for my party. I stand for what I believe in. You know, I'm one of those guys, I'm not a rich guy. My father would leave on a Monday morning, come back on a Friday night, he traveled all over New York State. We have one car for 7 kids, vacations were awesome, but it was crazy. But, and you know, we were, you know, blue collar as far as I'm concerned growing up, and you know, we wanted stuff in high school, we went out and got jobs as kids, okay? So that's how I was born and brought up, you know, and that's what I believe in. I've never, I gave away any chance of vote a long time ago for public service, 23 years ago. So it's guys like me in Congress, there's more than you think, okay? And you know, you're right, there's special interests in Congress to look out for their interests, but there's also special interests in Congress looking out for your interests. Guys like this come down and talk to me, and guys like Brad, and they tell me what they think. And we listen to that too. Because my constituency here in Central New York is not a bunch of fat cats. My constituency is you guys. And that's why I have to listen to.
And I think you're sincere. My thing is looking at the
Oh,
big
thank
picture.
God.
No, I'm just looking at the big picture, and like how, you know, because that's not true for everybody in Washington, that, you know, to have that. I'm just skeptical that these corporations are gonna go easily.
Oh, that's
get
why you
rid
should
of all
be. You should be
those
skeptical.
loopholes.
You should be
I
skeptical.
just, you know,
You should be skeptical, and that's good, and I am too. And, you know, there's more people like me in Congress than you might imagine. And we're fed up with hearing some corporations getting, you know, why is it that one corporation here has a better tax lawyer than this corporation, the exact same one, is doing much better? That's not what it should be about, right?
right?
It should be, pay your fair share, get as low as possible so we can compete as we can internationally, with the idea of you guys getting the jobs. That's what I believe. Yeah.
Is anyone in Congress writing new tax codes that would level the playing field? for
Yeah,
these
that's what they're working on as part of the comprehensive tax reform, is a simplification of the rules. You know, one of the things they want to do, they want to take the IRS out of the game. IRS is just a behemoth that's a mess. And if you simplify the tax code, IRS becomes much less relevant. And that, I think that's important from a tax raising standpoint. But basically, get back to what they should have been, just collecting revenue, not what they're doing now.
Do you think it's actually a possibility?
I think there's enough momentum on both sides.
We're gonna get rid of DEA.
I mean, they're gonna give it a try, yes.
You need to give tax-free status for the overseas money to come back to this country with no tax.
No, I don't, what they're trying to do is they're trying to repatriate those assets for
Yeah,
things,
they are.
for things like a highway bill. And,
Like last time, all that guaranteed money was supposed to go into, all these jobs were supposed to create from George Bush's administration, not one dime.
but I think this, you're right, and they look at it as a pot of money, there's no question about it. But if it's specifically dedicated to highway fund, that's, you know,
Not
that.
gonna happen.
Well, maybe you're hearing things I'm not.
Skeptic.
But here's the deal, you know, I understand you being a skeptic, and that's good to be skeptical. But let me tell you about, for example, the discussion on that issue is possibly taking it back. It's a one-time deal to fund the highway bill for 4 to 6 years. Now, hang on a second. Just hang on. I know you're skeptical, but just hang on, you finish. If it funded it for 4 to 6 years, they got the money back, they created jobs, you get the I-1 rebuild where you want to,
There's trillions overseas.
yes.
They won't even tell you how many trillions are overseas, and it's only gonna fund the highways? Please.
You could get this country out of debt like in a heartbeat.
Well, I think the bottom line is to answer the question, they're looking at it, you know, and they are, their ideas are dedicated specifically for the highway and some other things. How much there is, you hear all different kinds of things, okay? Right. The bottom line is it's a one-shot deal, that's the problem I have, right? And the real way to get money back here, in my mind, is to get manufacturing back here. You get manufacturing back here by making it more attractive from a financial standpoint. The marginal tax rate for manufacturing in this country is about 38, 39%. Guess what it is in Ireland? 15. Guess what it is in Britain? They just lowered it to 12 and it's going down to 11. Now, if we can fix that and close the loopholes and make that tax effective, for the effective tax rate, I think you got something.
Do you also see what's going on in Iowa now?
Didn't work before, ain't gonna work now.
Fight against those corporations coming in and paying no taxes?
No, not no taxes, 11-12%.
Well,
Okay, well, okay. You scheduled everything, I can tell you this.
my son's from Ireland right now.
Yeah.
Warren,
Yeah, you made a statement that IRS is a mess. I represent federal workers, not IRS, although we think they should be in our union, but I think that I agree with you, the IRS is a mess, and like many federal agencies, because Congress won't allow them to, won't provide the funds for them to operate. If you ask anybody in the customer service department, they've been cut to the bone, they can't answer phones, they can't provide services. But let's remember that the vast majority of federal workers simply are people who are doing their jobs. Management tells them what they're supposed to do, and they do it. Now, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal about a week or so ago reporting that the Republicans on the Senate Finance Committee were interested in taking away the union that represented the IRS employees. I'd like you to comment on that, and how do you feel about collective bargaining for federal workers?
I wasn't aware of that, but quite frankly, I don't know where they would have the power to do that. And to me, quite frankly, I think unions have always had an integral part in our economy. Were it not for unions, could you imagine where labor would be after the turn of the centuries in the early 1900s? And where would it be in the 1940s, 1950s, when everybody came home from war? You know, you built this country, and there is a place for you. And to me, I don't see where them telling you have to de-unionize is even a productive discussion. Jerry?
I'm glad to hear that.
Congressman, I'm with 1199 SCIU. We represent private sector healthcare workers. But I want to talk, kind of going on to what Warren said about not only collective bargaining but organizing. Because one of the reasons for the decline of the American labor movement is the fact of the matter is that there has been such an attack on workers even trying to form unions. The remedies within the National Labor Relations Act are so weak that an employer can just wantonly break the law, and the process they go through to get any remedy within the law is so long and cumbersome that what ends up happening, especially for the workers we try to organize, who are low-wage workers, or there might be home care workers, it might be housekeepers, dietary workers in a nursing home or hospital. What they'll do is they'll just fire them, because they know that the remedy of the law is back pay with interest. Well, interest is what, not even 1%? So, for them, I'll just pay that salary that I was already planning on budgeting to pay anyway, and we'll just pay that out and settle it, with the National Labor Relations Board once we go through the legal process. In the meantime, that worker has to go find other work, or we hire them on staff temporarily to work on the campaign. So what ends up happening is that the law is, part of the
campaign.
I'm sorry?
Work on whose campaign? Did you say work on campaign?
I can list for you campaigns in the industrial sector, healthcare sector, public sector, which is covered under a different act. But employers nowadays have this attitude that we will do whatever it takes not to have a union. So even if you bring manufacturing jobs here, what you'll find is, they're smaller manufacturers, but they will spend whatever they have to stop us from representing those workers, even though you might give them all sorts of tax breaks, all sorts of subsidies. And so here you're really subsidizing these companies to basically say to fight against workers who want to just exercise their right. Under the National Labor Relations Act, it says that citizens have a right to collectively bargain.
Right.
And they do everything they can to stop it. They hire big law firms. They hire, you can Google, I'm sure you're familiar with some of the law firms in town. But you can also Google any sorts of consultants. I can even say this, that when I worked for a unionized place, and you go through a bargain, you actually get a card from companies saying, here's how we can provide strike breakers to you. And it can be by sector. So there's this whole industry that is out to kill us. And what we really need from Congress, which I doubt we're going to get, but I'm still, while we have this opportunity, might as well, I'll be like Mark Barbie and lobby you, is that we need remedies in the law. We need labor law reform. When the Democrats were in Congress, they tried to have the Employee Free Choice Act. And we know now that even during the 2008 campaign, when that campaign, John McCain and Barack Obama were doing ads, the National Chamber of Commerce was running ads saying, defeat the Employee Free Choice Act. So that's what we are up against. And in order for labor unions to really drive up wages and benefits in this district and across the country, we really need labor law reform. And I know it's long-winded, so
No, I
thank you for your time.
appreciate it, but that's one of the reasons I'm here. I have to hear this stuff. I have to learn from it. So what I, obviously would like to do some follow-up. Tom Cannellan's my district director here. I encourage you to come and meet with him and educate us on this stuff because, I've been gone for 7 months. I've learned an awful lot. I've learned enough. I learned a lot about labor, but I can always learn more, and I'll be happy to learn about more because I understand what you're going through. I mean, there are remedies. There are remedies adequate. Are they working? I mean, those are the types of things I need to hear about. I appreciate it. Yes.
Greg McCready, West School Teachers. I have a
Yes.
question about education, but I want to.
I spoke at your graduation.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Now your graduation.
Not my graduation.
You're younger than me, not that much.
Actually, but I have a question piggybacking on that question of labor law and labor issues. You tend to lead a lot in your talking points about immigration reform and the need for closing the borders and that sort of thing. I'll let you elaborate on that. But one of the concerns we have in the labor movement, and I have personally, where I live in Baldwinsville, we have a lot of farms. And where my wife works in northern Kiwi County, there's a lot of farm workers. 70% of the farm workers in this country are Mexican. Many of them are undocumented workers. The agricultural sector is the only sector that the labor laws do not apply to. They don't have a 40-hour week. They do not have a day of rest. They don't have basic human rights principles built into their workday. What are your thoughts in relation to immigration and in relation to labor law, particularly how it affects New York, because agriculture is one of our biggest industries, and how we're addressing the needs of the families and of the children that are here in the agricultural sector, and where do you think labor and the labor movement and unionization plays a part of that?
Well, I mean, we could be here for hours talking about this. Let me just step back saying I have a fundamental understanding of this because I started dating my wife when she was 17 and I was 18. We're freshmen at Niagara, and I'm in my 50s now. And don't tell her I told her her age because she'll get mad. But I go down to her farm since I was 18 years old. My father was a potato farmer, and he had seasonal labor help. And I would go there, and I would get the camps ready cleaned and everything, and get them all set to go. And I would work on the crews sometimes with them when they're on harvesters with the potatoes. And they are the hardest working people on earth, and they work incredible hours, very industrious people. My father-in-law treated them right. He paid them right. They had really good living conditions, and they were happy. The crew chiefs were happy, but it is different. So, when I hear the discussion about immigration and problems, from a farmer standpoint, it's the cost of just getting them here without bureaucratic red tape. But from the other side of it is, as part of immigration reform, if we can streamline that, I have no problem giving them more rights. They do have a lot of rights when they come here. They get benefits when they come here. There's a lot of things that they get just by being here, medical attention. So it's not as if they're not getting any help. But as far as the number of hours working and all that, I think that's something that should be explored. Let me tell you about my feeling of it, just to step back about the immigration reform. It starts with securing the borders. And I worked on a bill that came out of committee like this, and now it's gummed up because they wanted part of comprehensive immigration reform. You have to secure the borders to start with. We are not the country we were 150 years ago. With all the social programs, we cannot afford to just open the doors everywhere. We just can't. Okay, we have a hard time taking care of our own. That's not to say we shouldn't let people come here legally. Right. There is a big need in labor for temporary labor. Big need, right? And a farmer like in Wayne County who has an apple farm, like Gary O'Day, he has maybe 40 people a year he has. It takes him an extraordinary amount of time and paperwork and anywhere from $1,000 to $4,000 per employee to bring them over for 10 weeks to get them to work. So let's say that it's on high end at $4,000. Or let's just say it's $1,000. Before the employees come over, just before you walk in the door, it's 40 grand. And an extraordinary amount of paperwork and labor involved in getting that done. How can you fix that? Okay, we got an iPhone here? We got an iPhone, okay, right? See this right here? What do we have to do to get in it? I put my thumb on it, reads my thumbprint, right? Why can't we have a system that uses biometrics where the guy, someone's coming to this country, they apply through the proper channels, they put their hand on the screen or their thumb on the screen, their picture comes up, that goes to the Department of Agriculture. When he shows up at the farm, instead of having all this paperwork, puts his thumb on the screen, his face comes up, he's good here. No, it's not. Pretty simple, right? Why can't we streamline it like that, make labor better? You know? Yes.
Corporations. Hormel Chili hires all these people. You're talking just the farmer labor. Look at the rest of the labor. There's a lot of corporations specifically hired.
Oh, and people who hire them without doing proper channels, every part of immigration reform has got to hammer employees who don't follow the law. Got to hammer them. Okay, that's a little bit to keep it
There's
safe.
laws in the books right now that aren't followed through on.
That's part of it. That's part of it. But, you know, so I guess the bottom line is, you gotta start with that, and then I agree with you. I mean, maybe the trade-off is, you have better conditions for them. But I can tell you, they come and inspect my father-in-law's camp, they were all over his ass if it wasn't clean, if it wasn't proper, they weren't getting, proper breaks and everything, they were on them pretty good. And then went into town and they had all kinds of social services available to them as well. So it's not perfect, but it's better than you might imagine. At least when I saw from the prison, how my father-in-law treated those people for 3 decades. So that's a good point, yeah.
Yeah, to follow up to Mark's point, you know, the American worker needs a voice on the job. I'll tell you something, we tried to negotiate a contract with Dish Network years ago, a company of Echo Star Communications. What they did to bust us and to push a DSER was disgusting. It's pathetic. And in this country, that workers who want a voice in the job can't have one. I'm talking about like my steward, or the one who was organizing was sent. I knew it was his kid's birthday. They made him go to like Binghamton. Said if you don't want to go to that job, then you're done. Fired. I mean, I mean, in this day and age, like the greatest country in the world that we treat our workers this way. We're trying to.
Keep talking, but just what made us one of the greatest countries in the world?
The American worker. Absolutely, the labor movement, for sure. Absolutely. OSHA, I mean, you name it.
It made us the economic power.
Everything that came out of the labor movement at the turn of the century. But we're negotiating a contract with Verizon right now, as you know.
Yeah.
And we're also.
That all the time, aren't you?
Yeah, I just came from there, and I really get my Irish up if I start talking about it, but it is what it is, right? I mean,
it's okay, I'm Irish too.
I know you are. We like that about you. You know, but we're also negotiating a contract for Verizon Wireless. And, you know, what the first thing they did is, you know, when we were on strike and with Facebook and everything else, we had some, you know, we had a few lifts go through cars and some cars lit on fire and turned over and stuff. I mean, that stuff kind of happens, unfortunately.
Not as much as it used to.
Yeah, but that's the video that they showed to the workers when they were in the process of going through a campaign in Brooklyn. Said, is this really is this what you want? Is this who you want, these convicts representing you? It's you know, it's disgusting, but the question is, we may need to enlist your support soon. There may be 39,000 of us might be going on strike. You know, the bullshit that they have said about they're upset or worried that they don't have a contract. They just don't want to have a contract. They want to send off. I mean, you name it, it's on the table. It's not just pensions. It's about that.
No, I understand. What you're trying to between a pension or a 401k, you got to take a choice.
Yeah, but but they also want to take away pretty much every pay period.
They also gravitating towards wireless, aren't they?
Yeah. But you know, we're talking about a company who has huge tax breaks, who pays no taxes. They make $9 billion a year. $9.6 billion they make.
A lot for my kids, and they're freaking cell phones.
True story. True story. But you know, but the part of that. But I want to let you know that the story in Syracuse is we represent close to 400 people in that call center.
Right.
Right now, their work goes to Tijuana, goes to Costa Rica, it goes to India, and it goes to Philippines. One proposal that they have on the table that they haven't moved off of is that they would reserve the right to move anywhere, anytime, any place, to the extent that they deem necessary. So we're talking about 400 people.
So how is that a deal for you? Now, I understand. So bottom line is, listen, bottom line is, we want to hear about this stuff, and if we, any way we can help, we will help. You know, I'm not saying we can go and stand there and, you know, pound the shit out of the company.
Well,
but
we're
hoping
hoping that we don't go on strike, but if we do, we're hoping you'll be on the picket line with us, like a lot of other people were in the room with us 3 years ago, which we're eternally grateful for. But we also would like to see if you could write a letter to Lowell McAdam, the CEO, and let him know that, you know, what your demands are just ridiculous, and we can get back to the bargaining table.
But talk to Tom afterwards, and we'll see what we can do. I mean, we fully anticipate trying to help him in any way we can. I don't know the parameters of what we can and cannot do, but I can tell you this much: we'll definitely listen to anything and help you in any way we possibly can, because those jobs should stay here. You know, and if there should be something, if they in the contract, if they decide to move their jobs overseas. And again, go back to the same story. The more we make it profitable for these guys to keep their jobs here, the more they keep them here. The big thing that changed in the 80s was that there was a perceived disparity in pay. You know, but China's pay is coming up, right? And as economies develop worldwide, the disparity is not what it once was. So Their incentive to be overseas isn't what it once was. It's still there, but isn't what it once was. Their main reason going overseas now is taxes. Okay? So I say, we fix the tax code and then hammer the hell out of people if they decide to go overseas after we fix the tax code. Keep the jobs here and then they go over, give them a good punch in the gut for it. But the bottom line is, as far as your situation, talk to Tom in any way we can help. But I can, I will.
Thank you.
Okay.
We talked about Social Security and Medicare for a while. Your party and your, especially your presidential candidates who are running to be the nominate for the nomination are stepping over each other, trying to take an extreme position on both of those programs. Getting rid of, for example, Jeb Bush would like to get rid of Medicare. And they would like to privatize Social Security or raise the retirement age or raise the amount those who can collect who could qualify. I'd like to know your position on one of the...
It's easy. I'll tell you my positions. Medicaid, Medicare. First of all, we had the first major reform in Medicare in 20 years this Congress. Already, nobody's talked about it. Okay, the doc fix. And anyone in the doctor field knows. That fix took 17 years,
Yeah.
right? That's a big deal, isn't it?
It was a big deal.
It's a big deal. It's to keep more doctors in Medicare and more doctors providing care to Medicare patients. That was a huge thing you don't hear about, like the Congress. I hear this Congress isn't getting done. We got that done. That's a big thing. As far as my feeling of Medicare and Social Security, I can tell you one thing. It's a solemn promise that we made to everybody here, including myself. Okay, because I left private practice in 1991, and one of the reasons I did in going to government is because I was relying on Medicare and relying on Social Security to be there when I retired. And I'll be damned if I'm going to let something happen to them. Okay, so we got a promise to people, and we can't violate that promise.
So you're opposed to any kind of things that will
No.
destroy Medicare or Social
I'm
Security?
opposed to get rid of Medicare and Social Security. And quite frankly, I think that's hyperbole, because it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. The question is, can we make it solvent? And that's what concerns me. Now, that is what we have to make sure we make it solvent. What's that?
Raise the cap.
Okay, well, that's something that we should discuss. The bottom line is,
Okay, eliminate the cap.
the bottom line is,
Okay.
the bottom line is, we have to do what we can to make sure it's solvent long-term.
Well, it's solvent until 2033 when it will pay 80% of...
So why do we want to wait till the...
Well, we don't have to wait.
We always, that's my problem
Let's
with
not
Congress.
eliminate it.
And that's my problem with Congress. We wait till the freaking building's burned before we decide to start doing something about it. Let's not wait, let's for once fix it before the building catches on fire.
But we want to strengthen Social Security,
Absolutely.
not weaken it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You gotta strengthen it by fixing it. Absolutely.
And fixing it, if you raise the cap or remove it, the Republican Party always says, well, that's increasing taxes, and we are adamantly against increasing taxes. But that means anybody that makes over $118,000 pays nothing on the amount of over $118,000.
No, it's a valid point.
Which is a bunch of crap.
As far as I'm concerned, we need to do what we have to do to fix it. Period. Yes, Helen?
Okay, I'm gonna switch gears for a minute, because I have something I've been squawking about for a while. And I did
You
put
don't
it,
squawk.
and yeah, I was squawking. And I did put it in President Obama's ear, and I'm gonna put it in yours now. I am born and raised in the United States of America, but my voting rights are renewable every 25